The Bush administration's open borders policy and its decision to ignore the enforcement of this country's immigration laws is part of a broader agenda. President Bush signed a formal agreement that will end the United States as we know it, and he took the step without approval from either the U.S. Congress or the people of the United States. Bill Tucker reports.
The Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America sounds benign, hardly like a policy that critics call NAFTA on steroids. It's a deal that few have even heard of.
It's being done again by very few people at the very top on behalf of the investment class, but the working class of people. Political officials across our country, from communities, from cities and so forth, they don't know anything about this.
Yet it was agreed to by Mexico's President Fox, Canada's Prime Minister Martin, and President Bush in 2005. Administration officials counter their critics by saying everything about SPP is on the White House website. And they say the partnership is not a treaty, but more of an outline of priorities between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Still, some wonder why there haven't been public discussions about the goals being pursued.
This SPP includes, for instance, a committee that is sitting down to harmonize our meat inspection and food safety. So how far away from a trade agreement can your dining room table and what you feed your kids be?
Other parts of the agreement mention border security as an issue, which include all of North America. In fact, the name of the agreement is not Security and Prosperity of the United States, but of North America.
When we are elected officials, we expect them to act on our behalf. When we get involved in cooperative frameworks with other countries for joint regulation of fisheries or rail transportation or the skies, we're basically sharing our sovereignty with that government and outsourcing some of what we give our elected officials.
As disturbing as some find SPP, there is legislation in the House introduced by Florida's Katherine Harris that closely resembles the goals of the partnership. Included in that bill is a section which calls for the securing of Mexico's southern border by the United States and Canada. Lou, that's not the border with the United States, that's the border they share with Belize and Guatemala.
The idea that the White House would respond that this is on their website, this involves intricate workings amongst the Commerce Department of this country and Canada and Mexico's, of course, a regional prosperity and security program. This is absolute ignorance. And the fact that we reported this, we should point out, when it was signed. But as we watch this thing progress, these working groups are continuing, they're intensifying. What in the world are these people thinking about?
Well, they say, look, these are a declaration and an outline of our priorities. And when I called them today, Lou, they said I was the first phone call they had received literally since the deal was first signed. So people are not paying attention, and they're letting them, in fact, get away with this.
You know, I was asked the other day about whether or not I really thought the American people had the stomach to stand up and stop this nonsense, this direction from a group of elites in absolute contravention of our law, of our Constitution, every national value. And I hope, I pray that I'm right when I said yes. But this is beyond belief.
25 judges.
What does your heart beat?
Judge 5.25 judges.
What does your heart beat?
Or is it passion, music, fame, love, money, respect?
What does your heart beat?
New Yorkers can now apply for the new enhanced driver's license. News 4's Melissa Holmes is live at Peacebridge with the latest. Melissa?
Well, Lisa, they've only been available for a couple of hours, but already more than 100 New Yorkers have applied for the new enhanced driver's license. Officials say that they'll make crossing borders like here at the Peacebridge safer and faster. Now, starting June 2009, federal law will require you to either have the enhanced driver's license or a passport to enter into the U.S. from Canada, the Caribbean, or Bermuda. Now, the new enhanced driver's license has a special radio frequency chip inside that will make it faster at the border crossings. Now, for a regular renewal, the enhanced license costs $80. That's $30 more than a regular license. But a passport costs more than $100. Now, a birth certificate will suffice at the border until June 2009, and it will always be accepted for children under 16. Now, it used to be that 8,000 forms of ID were accepted at the border, but come June, that number will only be 6. But why should a traveler pick an enhanced license over a passport, a Nexus card, or a new passport card?
Enhanced driver's license makes the most sense because it is a multiple use document. Again, citizenship, identity can be used for driving. It surpasses the other applications of those other documents. And we encourage residents of the state of New York who are U.S. citizens to get one.
You don't need to rush in today. Yes, it's an exciting day. It's September 16th. You want to be the first on your block to have one. I understand that. But you really don't need it until June of 2009.
Now, once you apply for the enhanced driver's license, you should receive it in about 2 weeks. Now, when you go to the DMV to apply, you'll need to bring several forms of documentation, and so you're asked to go to the DMV's website or the Erie County Clerk's website to check out what those documents are. It'll make your time at the DMV a lot easier. We've linked the Erie County Clerk's website to our website, WIBB.com. Reporting live at the Peace Bridge, Melissa Holmes, News 4 at noon.
All right, thanks for the update on that, Melissa. Now, if you still have questions about these new licenses, we'll help you get them answered. Erie County Clerk Kathy Hochul will be on WIBB.com tonight live.
And I believe we're developing tools within the Constitution to do so. Some people in this country want to get rid of them, and they're wrong. They're wrong. You can't expect me and people in this government to do what we need to do to protect you and your family if we don't have the tools that we think are necessary to do so.
And you said within the law, and yet you admitted that there were these CIA secret facilities. Okay.
So what? Why is that not within the law?
The head of Amnesty International says secret sites are against international law.
Well, we just disagree with him. And plus, my job is to protect you. And most American people, if I said that we had who we think's the mastermind of the 9/11, they would say, why don't you see if you can't get information out of him without torturing him, which is what we did.
Were you made personally?
My job is to protect this country, man. And I'm going to, within the law. And it gets second-guessed all the time by people who don't live in the United States. But let me remind you, September the 11th for them was a bad day. For us, it was a change of attitude.
These alternative methods you talked about in terms of extracting information from these suspected terrorists, were you made personally aware of all of the techniques that were used, for example, against the Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and did you approve all of those techniques?
I told our people get information without torture, and was assured by our Justice Department that we were not torturing.
It's been reported that with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, he was what they call waterboarded.
I'm not going to talk about techniques that we use on people. One reason why is because we don't want the enemy to adjust. American people need to know we're using techniques within the law to protect them. You said to me, how can we be assured you're doing everything it takes to protect the American people? And I'm saying to you, we're listening to Al-Qaeda as they're calling this country, and some people want to get rid of that program. We had walls that did not allow criminal investigators and intelligence forces to talk to each other. We've eliminated the laws. Let me finish. But one of the best source, according to those who are on the front lines of protecting the American people, is when we pick up somebody off of a battlefield, that we interrogate them within the law to get data. And I would strongly urge people to look at that speech I gave, because I declassified classified information to show how important the information we got from whom we think is the mastermind of the September the 11th attacks.
I don't want to let this within the law issue slip, though. I mean, if in fact there was waterboarding used with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and for the viewers, that's basically you strap someone to a board and you make them feel as if they're going to drown. You put them underwater. If that was legal and within the law, why couldn't you do it at Guantanamo? Why'd you have to go to a secret location around the world?
I'm not going to talk about techniques. And I'm not going to explain to the enemy what we're doing. All I'm telling you is that you've asked me whether or not we're doing things to protect the American people, and I want the American people to know we are doing so.
At some point, Mr. President, if techniques, these alternative techniques are used, I'm not going to ask you to specifically say about them, but if they are used, are you at all concerned that at some point, even if you get results, there's a blurring the lines of between ourselves and the people we're trying to protect us against?
Matt, I'm just telling you, what this government has done is to take steps necessary to protect you and your family. You asked me about your family, and you represent a lot of other people. And the best information we can get is from people we take off the battlefield so we can act on it, so we can stop plots before they happen. And whatever we have done is legal. That's what I'm saying. It's in the law. We had lawyers look at it and say, Mr. President, this is lawful. That's all I can tell you. I'm not going to tell you specifically what's done because I don't want the enemy to adjust. We're at war. This is people that want to come and kill your families. And the best way to protect you is to get information. And I'm confident the American people understand why we've done that. You see, we've acted on information they've given us to prevent attacks. And these are real. This isn't make-believe. These are attacks that were coming to hurt the American people again.
That was the president this Friday in the Oval Office. And by the way, President...
New efforts tonight to fight a plan by some corporate business leaders and their political allies that could erode the United States sovereignty. The organizers are fighting a proposed North American Union that could leave our nation vulnerable on many fronts. Lisa Sylvester reports.
Mexican truck drivers may soon haul cargo deep into the heart of the United States. They're currently limited to within 20 miles of the U.S. border. It could mean U.S. job losses and serve as a gateway for human and drug smuggling.
This would basically make a driver from Mexico be able to freely go about throughout the United States. And to us, that's scary from a safety standpoint, but it's especially scary from the standpoint of security.
Critics say U.S. sovereignty is also on the line. To understand, go back to 2005. President Bush, Mexican President Vicente Fox, and then Canadian Prime Minister Paul Martin launched what's called the Security and Prosperity Partnership, a trade and economic partnership that many see as a precursor to a North American Union modeled after Europe.
There's hardly a major area of public policy where the Bush administration has not, through the SPP working groups, rewritten our administrative law and regulations from being U.S. in nature to being North American in nature.
The coalition to block the North American Union wants to defeat a proposed NAFTA superhighway that would stretch from Texas all the way to Canada. Congress has been left largely out of the loop.
They never even heard of this. They don't know a thing about it. What's going on? Well, what's going on is a super elite are taking control.
Lawmakers who have heard are hell-bent on keeping a North American Union from happening.
The interest of hard-working businesses in this country, hard-working workers in this country, and the average citizen in the United States should be placed ahead, in my opinion, of some international global theory that I think would harm the United States and most of its citizenry.
President Bush just signed the fence bill saying the borders need to be secured.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. For what purpose does the gentleman from Oregon rise? Without objection.
Most Americans would agree that it would be prudent to have a plan to provide for the continuity of government and the rule of law in case of a devastating terrorist attack or natural disaster. A plan to provide for the cooperation, the coordination, and continued functioning of all three branches of the government. The Bush administration tells us they have such a plan. They introduced a little sketchy public version that's clearly inadequate and doesn't really tell us what they have in mind. But they said, don't worry, there's a detailed classified version. But now they've denied the entire Homeland Security Committee of the United States House of Representatives access to their so-called detailed plan to provide for continuity of government. They say, trust us. Trust us, the people who brought us Katrina, to be competent in face of a disaster. Trust us, the people who brought us warrantless wiretapping and other excesses eroding our civil liberties. Trust us. Maybe the plan just really doesn't exist, and that's why they won't show it to us. I don't know. Or maybe there's something there that's outrageous. The American people need their elected representatives to review this plan for the continuity of government.
Gentlemen.